Hello, my name is Marcus Ruiz-Evans with Yes California, the current president. I just attended a conference speaking directly to representatives from the Donetsk People's Republic. I'm not a government official. I've never claimed to represent the California government or any government official, nor have I claimed to have any contact with any current government official. I'm a leader of an unofficial, loose collection of humans in a movement, and I went to speak to them as a private citizen. The reason that I did that is for a couple reasons. A lot of people are going to find that decision controversial. A lot of people will be upset that Yes California spoke to the Donetsk People's Republic about 10 minutes ago. And here's what I'd like to say to you. Number one, open debate. Anybody has any issue with why Yes California went to the Donetsk People's Republic, I'm willing to accept any debate as long as it's recorded and posted unedited directly to YouTube. You want to challenge me? Challenge me. Let's debate. But I get to say all my points and we post the whole thing unedited. You're willing to accept that challenge? I'm willing to have you excoriate me on what I did and why you think it was horrible and bad. But let me explain why I did it. Yes California went out to represent the entire Calexit movement and speak to the Donetsk People's Republic because, number one, in February 2017, Reuters, Ipsos, and Stanford University showed that 47.5 to 46% of Californians were open to the idea of secession. Both of those surveys undercounted Latinos. And when you accurately count Latinos in those surveys to match the demographic profile of their percentage of the California population in 2017, the amount of Californians willing to talk about secession goes to 55%. Brexit passed with a 52% vote. The Republican Party in California is smaller than the 32% who have said that they would be willing to leave America immediately. No California politicians acknowledge those surveys. No California politician has reached out to those people. And effectively, the government of California has abdicated authority by not recognizing the will of 55% of the people. So, California politicians, until you do what you're supposed to be doing in a democracy, meaning when 32% say one thing and 55% double down, you don't ignore those people or act like they don't exist. They're called Californians. It's your job to represent them and speak to them. You've done nothing of the kind. So that's a failure on your part, California government. That's why I get to speak. Because none of you have stepped up to recognize over half of Californians. That's on you. Secondly, the reason that I did this was because I was inspired by California politicians. The fact is that Californians reach out to cultures America doesn't like for decades. America wanted a war with China. Nixon went to China. Reagan made glasnost. The Soviet wall fell because of the Esalen Institute. Californians opposed Vietnam. They opposed the Iraq War. When the government of America kicked out all foreign Russian ambassadors, Jerry Brown that day traveled to Russia to meet Vladimir Putin. When the federal government was talking about building a wall with Latin America, Governor Newsom traveled to El Salvador, went on TV and said we had a separate foreign policy. I didn't make these people do this. This is who Californians are. Jerry Brown popularized this statement. Californians build bridges and Americans build walls. When I went to speak to the people of Iran, when I spoke to the people of Donetsk, that's all I said. Don't take my word for it. Look up who we are, who we've been for decades, the way our governors act. They already act independently. They already say, hey, America, did you want to threaten a culture and war? Well, California's not with that. I didn't make Californians believe that. I didn't travel back in time. This is who we are. I've been pointing that out. And California leaders do not point that out. So while I am inspired by California leaders reaching out and not choosing war and trying to de-escalate war, I'm also a little bit frustrated because they aren't going around the world pointing out how California culture is demonstrably different from America for the last 50 to 60 years. And that has all sorts of foreign policy implications. The other thing is that I'm also inspired by the California leadership because of California essentially created ARTSOC. ARTSOC is a breakaway nation full of Armenian people. It was essentially recognized and supported by California. It exists because California put its weight behind it and reputation. So ARTSOC exists. Right after California basically brought ARTSOC into being through internationally supporting it, essentially the only established economy to do so, ARTSOC foreign minister, May 2014, said that he was going to, May 2019, the foreign minister of ARTSOC said he would recognize the Donetsk People's Republic. In November 2019, after that, Anthony Portantino, a California politician, commended ARTSOC and said nothing criticizing them about their decision to recognize the Donetsk People's Republic. Sorry. It gets warm over here. June 2019, TJ Cox, an additional California legislator, also supported ARTSOC and did not criticize them for the decision on Donetsk. Additionally, no California politician has said, let's remove the recognition for ARTSOC or criticized ARTSOC for saying they would recognize and dialogue with the Donetsk People's Republic. So California made ARTSOC. California politicians all supported that. Nobody's criticized ARTSOC for recognizing Donetsk. Multiple politicians have come out and provided even more support to ARTSOC after they recognized Donetsk. So, if you don't like, yes, California reaching out to Donetsk, I would encourage you to ask Portantino, Cox, and effectively the entire California legislature over the last 4 years why they thought that was okay and did absolutely nothing about it. Finally, the other reason that I went to the Donetsk People's Republic is because the West has abdicated authority. Bridget Coggins, who's a professor here in California, wrote the book Dynamics of Recognition. And what she said is that countries get recognized because a super powerful country wants them to be. There is no such thing as international law. There's no international order. There's no rule of norms. That's all garbage that the West teaches itself to make it sound like it follows the law. The West doesn't. The West does whatever it wants, when it wants, just like China and Russia. They want a country to be a country, poof, your country. Doesn't have to follow international law. To point out the hypocrisy of the West in supporting all people to have the right to vote and self-determination, as expressed in the treaty that America already signed with creating the UN, I'd like to talk about Kosovo, 2008. February 22nd, 2014, the unconstitutional vote in Ukraine. May 11th, 2014, the vote in Donetsk. October 1st, 2017, the vote in Catalan. February 2011, the uprising in Bahrain. November 2019, the democratic secession movement in Hong Kong. September 2017, Kurdistan. September 2014, the Scottish referendum, where they were told by England that they would stay in the UK, the 2016 Brexit vote, where the UK proved that they lied, and then the 2019 request by the Scottish people to the English saying, you lied to us in that vote, in which case the UK said, yeah, but that doesn't mean you get a vote anyways. So, Kosovo, the West backed. Catalan, the West didn't back. Ukraine, the West backed. Donetsk, the West didn't back. Bahrain, the West didn't back. UK, the West backed. Hong Kong, the West backed. Kurdistan, the West didn't back. Scotland, the West didn't back. It makes no sense. These laws are all equally legal. The vote in Ukraine was unconstitutional. That's on Wikipedia. No one denies that the vote in Ukraine that was recognized as legitimate by Europe and the US and the entire West was unconstitutional by own admission. It's an illegal vote. No one in the West cares. Catalonia people went to vote. The Spanish government threatened their leaders, arrested them, chased them out of the country, sent SWAT teams to get ballots, pointed live ammunition at people, and beat people up, including elderly people who had their head literally split open for the crime of wanting to vote. Europe effectively said nothing. America supported Spain. Now, when China does that to Hong Kong, Europe's right there along with America saying that's wrong. But when Spain does it to Catalan, no talk. When Bahrain does it to their people, no discussion. When the Ukraine has an unconstitutional vote, let's not talk about it. When Kosovo is just announced to be a nation regardless of international precedent, don't need to mention that. And so it is because of the duplicity and lies of the West and of California leaders that I did that. Step up, do your job, and I'll have no place and nobody will want to speak to me. But if you allow this continued vacuum of reasonable leadership, I'll be there.